there, all you mighty fine window shoppers.
Hey, sweetie.
Do I have something special for you on this episode of
Red Movierama?
Hey guys, I just want to introduce y'all to somebody. This is my guest on this episode. It's Dan Bone.
Hello.
Hey.
Rick. Hey, everyone. Wow.
Hey, hold on. Dan, is that Dan, Rick, you never said you were friends with the Dan Bone from Podcast on Haunted Hill, right?
Yeah, that's who he is. I mean, there he is. Say hi to him.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, how you doing? Wow, nice to meet you. Well, nice to meet all of you, actually. God, it's great. I've heard you all talking. I've heard so much about you all, and here you all are. Wow.
My mom is gonna freak out when she knows that I got to meet Dan Bone at the naval base. You guys are listened to all the time.
I think I might have met your mum at the naval base. Actually, I think I might.
Hold on. What are you trying to say, Dan?
Oh, nothing. Hello, who are you? Hello.
Look at this guy. Fancy podcasting guy. Not in my room. No way.
I'm here. Well, sorry, I'm here, guys. This is it. I've been invited. Ricky's invited me. He's the master. He's the master of ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just need to chill out. I mean, we're here to do a show. I mean, you're lucky because normally I make you go hide when I bring guests on, but I figured, I know Aswell's a fan.
Yes, I am. So yeah, I'm excited about what movie we doing.
Well, actually, Aswell, I think you're still not going to be while we're doing the movie, but I just wanted you to get to meet Dan.
Well,
yeah. I mean, Ricky, I'm sensing a little hostility from the guys, actually. From some of them, anyway. This Aswell guy's cool. He can stay. Can he stay with us?
Can I stay, Skippy?
Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see how it works out. I'll tell you what. We'll let you start, and if you do well, then yeah, you can stick around.
Oh, great. So what movie are we doing?
Well, we're doing a movie called Mannequin.
Okay, that sounds really stupid. I figured Dan would pick a better sounding movie than that.
Oh, what's stupid about Mannequin?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
it?
it sounds stupid. You should have just called the movie Dummy.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's kind of what it's about. It's about a guy that falls in love with a mannequin.
Well, hold on. Wait. So you're telling me that you invited Dan from Podcast on Haunted Hill to come on the show and talk about a movie about a guy's getting it on with a mannequin?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's pretty much it, Dan, right?
Yeah, that's what you did. Yeah, that's it. I suggested it. I think this is the one I wanted to talk about.
Dan, the man of your stature, you picked this movie.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. I'm sorry. Is it wrong? Was I wrong?
I'm fabriclasted. I can't even say it. I can't even say fabriclasted because I'm so messed up. I would figure you would at least pick like Gone with the Wind or some great classic, but some stupid dummy movie.
Yeah,
this is a classic.
As well, you got to calm down, man. This is the 80s at its most cocaine-ish.
Well, okay, we might as well get down to it. So what's this movie about?
It's about a guy that works in a department store who is lonely and falls in love with a dummy. That's kind of it.
Not helping at all.
He kind of gets it on with her a bit.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a little better explanation. So take it away, Rick.
Mannequin is a 1987 comedy fantasy romance movie directed by Michael Gottlieb. A young artist searching for his vocation makes a mannequin so perfect that he falls in love with it. Finding the mannequin in a store window, he gets a job there and his creation comes to life. Starring Andrew McCarthy as Jonathan Switcher. Yeah, he's looking for some wood. Kim Cattrall as Smoking Hot Emmy. That's all I'm going to say about that. Estelle Getty as Claire Temkin. Hey, she runs the store. James Spader as Richards. Hey, what a slimeball. G.W. Bailey as Felix. Yeah, he's the mall cop. And Messek Taylor as Hollywood, the real star of this movie. And a whole bunch of other people that just run in scenes back and forth. Back to you, Rick.
We had initially picked a different movie to do on here, but somehow we fell in this one. Dan recommended it. Before we jump into it, I want to know, when was the first time you saw this? Is this a childhood favorite, or is it just something you picked up later on in life?
It's a childhood favorite, and Kim Cattrall is a big reason for that.
Yeah, that's hot.
Now that is hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of discovered this movie probably was about 10 or 11, and let's just say it made me feel funny. So I don't know, it just, and also it's quite sweet at heart, really, the film.
Yeah.
It's quite funny, and also it's got that kind of thing in it which we've all got as from being a kid, which is that fantasy of running around a department store or a shopping centre doing whatever the hell you want, whether it's a George Romero movie or whether it's with Kim Cattrall dressed up as a rock star.
That's what I find fascinating about this, because I really think through all the conversations you and I have had, even though we really haven't done much podcasting together, is I don't see much that we really disagree on. It's almost like we're right on the same page as far as likes of stuff. And yeah, this is one of those movies, man. I have to admit, I watched it again last night. I asked my wife, we were bored, and said, hey, you want to watch Mannequin? She was like, yeah, okay. And then she said, wait a minute. Is that the one that's got Kim Cattrall in it? And I was like, yeah. She said, I don't know if I need to watch that with you, because you may start acting strange. So yeah, she knows as well that Kim Cattrall was an item for myself growing up. So yeah, man, and this is I've said it in passing. This is her at her finest, man. She's smoking in this movie.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely, and it's a chance for the producers and the director to put her in an array of incredible costumes, because she's a mannequin, right. Dress her up.
So one other thing we got to talk about, because we also talked about a movie company that we both have an affection for, which is Cannon Films. But even though this movie is a Fox production, internationally it was carried by Cannon Films. And I opted out. Here's my story with this movie. I remember when this came out, and I remember seeing the video by Starship at the time. They weren't Jefferson Starship, just Starship, which they had the huge hit. It was on MTV nonstop, which probably made me go, yeah, I don't want to see this. I never put it together in my head that was Kim Cattrall in the video. So this came out at the same time that Outrageous Fortune came out with Shelley Long and Bette Midler. So me and my wife, actually with my girlfriend at the time, went and seen that one instead. So I never caught this in the theater. So I saw it later on in VHS, and I never put it together that was her in this movie for some reason. But that changed. Oh, so yeah, man. All right, let's get back into it. We're in Egypt, and we meet Emmy, which is Kim Cattrall, and
who clearly looks Egyptian. Clearly,
yeah, absolutely. The light hair, and we can't really tell at first because she's dressed up like a mummy because she's hiding from her mom. She's had one of these set up weddings. This is about the fourth or fifth one that she's dodged out of, and her mom's trying to get her to marry a camel dung salesman.
Yeah. Well, actually, Ricky, let's give him his proper title. He's a fuel dealer. He deals in fuel.
Oh, so it's get this funny setup where she's the rebellious, I don't want to do what other girls do and get married and settle down. I want to see the world, do great things. And in the middle of all this, she yells out to the gods to please get me out of this situation, and she's gone.
Oh, yeah. We get an act of God, shakes the pyramid that she's within.
Yeah.
Flashes of lightning. Boom. She's gone.
Yeah. And then we cut to an animated opening credits series, which has a a Belinda Carlisle song going on.
It does. It does have Belinda Carlisle.
And this is
now, you know you're hitting the 80s when you get an animated cartoon style intro with Belinda Carlisle singing over the top.
Yeah.
You know you're getting into the 80s here. 87, boom, here we go. Let's do it.
Which is kind of sad too, because this is right at the breakup point of the Go-Go's, right? So.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, I know, man.
In my wildest dreams.
That's hot. So we cut to Philadelphia, which is the city of brotherly love and Rocky Balboa.
Oh yeah.
And I have to admit, watching this movie, I always forget that it's Philadelphia because it feels like L.A., it feels like New York, with the shopping centers and all this stuff. And it's weird. You keep going, wait a minute, this is Philadelphia. It's weird that it's set there. It's such an odd choice, I think.
I always figured it was. I figured it was New York when I was a kid because to me, anywhere American was New York when I was a kid.
Sure.
I was like, oh, well, they must live in New York. Yeah, great. But no, they don't. I realize as I'm older that America is a very large place, Rick, as you would probably, agree with. And there are lots of many places, not just New York.
Yeah, where I live is nothing like New York. My neighbors are Amish, if that tells you anything. So
there we go, look.
So we're in Philadelphia, we meet Jonathan, and he's working in a shop that makes mannequins, I believe is what they're doing, which it looks like he's loving his job because apparently dancing is encouraged while you work, because not only is he dancing, but the other people that are working there are dancing as well.
It's a great scene. Bit of My Girl, boom, 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 boom. And my favorite bit is the other guy, not him, not Jonathan Switcher, because he's happy, he's putting his mannequin together, and then you cut to that guy behind him who's just leaning back, and he's really leaning into the song. You think, I want to work at this mannequin factory. Right.
And it's also a case of where they don't really play the song, so you're just singing it, on a whim, and then they try to put the song behind it, and it doesn't match up at all. So it's,
no.
But hey, what can you do, right? They probably had to fight to get the rights to be able to use the song eventually. So who knows?
I was surprised actually that they got that in this. To be honest with you, but hey,
yeah, it's classic song. So, but he's putting a mannequin together that looks very familiar, and he's. Trying to put arms on it, and Popeye look. He's putting the wrong arms on the mannequin and all stuff. So it's a lot of
wrong
fun.
gender as well at one point. Wrong gender.
And he's kind of put her together, and he's admiring her a bit. And then his boss comes in and is like, "Hey, when you going to get this done?" He's like, "Hey, I think I can knock out one of these every couple of days." So he's like, "You're supposed to do like 3 or 4 of these a shift." So poor Jonathan, he's an artiste, and he applies that to everything that he does, but it always gets him fired. So he goes from this job to blowing up animal balloons or balloon animals at a birthday party for a kid. He screws that up.
It gets called biscuit brain, doesn't
Biscuit brain.
Biscuit brain. My old man's paying you.
I want the big balloon. Yeah, he gives the kid the big balloon, and the kid floats off. I mean, it's typical 80s humor, right?
Yeah, but that's funny because his dad's like, hey, butt breath or something, get your hand off my kid. And he's like, okay, he lets go, and the kid floats off. But then you hear the kid go, wow. And so he's like, it's not bad. The kid's having fun up there.
Then you get the trimming the hedges scene where he's trimming a big rabbit, Get your check, get out of here. Little Edward Scissorhands going on there, right?
Yeah, he does. And then he goes to a pizza place as well, and he's trying his best to make it great looking. His pizza looks great, but it's taken him hours to make it again.
Everything's symmetrical, he's got everything, all the toppings laid out a certain pattern, it looks great. And he gets fired from there too. And later on, he goes to pick up Roxy, his girlfriend, who works at Illustra, which is a big shopping mall type business, a huge store, almost like a Macy's or something like that, but very cutting edge for the 80s.
Yeah, it also reminds me of the name of a name of one of the organizations in Gem and the Holograms, I'm sure.
Oh.
There was something in that called Illustra. Like, weren't the baddies in? I don't know. Maybe I'm
Probably
wrong.
So.
I don't know.
I've got a friend that would be able to tell us all of that. He's a big Gem fanatic, so.
Well, I mean, Gem's amazing. It's truly outrageous.
Amazing. Oh, that was good.
And also, let's not skip over Jonathan's sweet motorcycle.
Oh, yeah. Harley Davidson.
He rides around Philly on.
Yep. And, I don't know what your impressions are over there of Harley Davidson. Obviously, it's one of those America things, right? But during the 80s, they were not the best motorcycles.
Really?
I mean, and obviously we kind of get a part of that as we go here, but he's picking up Roxy on his motorcycle. She's like, she's a little embarrassed, right? Because everybody else she's working with are top notch, well off. The manager, the owner, I guess, of Illustra is getting into his limo right behind her, and he says, "Hey, see you later, Roxy." And she's like, "Oh, hey, bye." Very embarrassed.
Can you get this bucket of bolts started immediately, please?
Right. Cranks it up. They go off. And she pretty much says, "You know what? I think we're kind of done for a while. You're not getting anywhere. You keep losing your jobs. This just isn't going anywhere." So she jumps in a cab and takes off. And it starts to rain.
Well, that's the triple hit, Rick. That's the triple hit. The 80s, you lose your job, you lose your woman, and the heavens will open on you, all within, that opening couple of scenes.
Yeah.
Establishing where you're at as a human being
in pure 80s style, man. I mean, it's your worst, as my granddaughter would say, worst day ever. It's weird. My granddaughter sounds a lot like Aswell. But yeah, man, he tries to get his motorcycle cranked because it's starting to rain and it won't crank. So here he is pushing his motorcycle down the street, and then he sees her. She's in a window. And he walks up and he's like, "My creation!" And he's like talking to her. He's like, "You're the only thing I've ever created that was worth a crap." And, he goes on and on about how he just admires her so much. And he says, "See you tomorrow." Can we talk about the fact of, I don't know if we've seen them yet, but what's with the bowling shoes?
Yeah, that's something that I read up on, like reading up for this conversation, but also afterwards, after watching the film, I noticed every scene he's wearing bowling shoes. I don't know why that is. It's quite prominent at the end, because in the poster, like the famous poster that used to be in the video store every time I went in there, there's that poster of him leaning on the bike with Kim Cattrall behind him, and he's got those Converse on, the high top Converse, which I've got. I think everybody wanted Converse. Everyone wore them, but he doesn't wear them in this film. He wears bloody bowling shoes all the time.
I wonder if they were trying to start a new trend or what the deal was, but it didn't work.
No, it didn't work. I don't want to wear somebody else's shoes that have been sprayed with a disinfectant. No, thank you.
Oh, but the next day he decides to go back to where he saw the mannequin in the window. How much is that mannequin in the window? And we meet Claire, who is the owner of another store that she happens to have the mannequin in the window display. And Claire, if you don't know, is played by, who is it, Dan?
Estelle Getty.
Yeah. Thank you for being a friend. I mean,
travel down the road and back again.
If you just put a wig on her head, I mean, she talks exactly the same, acts exactly the same as she does on Golden Girls.
She is a sweetheart, isn't she? Yeah. Especially in this film, she is the kind of person you want to bump into and get you a job and get you in the door. She's beautiful in this. Love her. This
is the kind of person you want to work for life.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
But yeah,
and also the most 80s sort of Laurel and Hardy moment of all time well, with him with the 100-year sign. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Some of it's sort of cranked up as well. They cranked up the speed of the camera. So I'll just describe it if you don't mind, Rick. So he's sort of chatting to her, and then they're putting up the 100 years anniversary sign, and he says to her, 100 years, that's great. She's like, well, it's not me that's 100 years, it's the store. They have a bit of a joke about that. But then the sign comes slamming down because somebody walks into somebody. He grabs it. I got it. I don't got it. He does that whole kind of thing. And then he's on the sign swinging backwards and forwards, sometimes at a highly cranked rate, sometimes under cranked. And then she says, what can I do to make up for you? What does she do, Rick? She gives him a job.
Gives him a job. But I kept telling my wife, I was like, why don't he have this conversation after he gets off the sign? I mean,
I would just jump off. I'm not Jackie Chan, but I could have jumped off of that sign easily.
But yeah, he saved her life by pushing her out of the way. And I'm going, why didn't they just put it on like just like a banner type material? Why did you make this big, heavy 3,000-pound sign to hang on the side of a building when you know you're going to take it back down because it says 100 years?
That's actually really true, because most places put up a vinyl sort of banner, don't they?
Right.
They wouldn't spend all that money on a really heavy. That probably would have cost quite a few $1,000s to get that up there.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And according to the business that they have inside, that's probably not a good investment.
Well, no. Good reveal that as well. That in a moment when he says, "What time do we open?"
Yeah. She walks him into the store. They're looking around, huge store, and like we said, there's just no business. And he's like, "Wow, this place is really neat. When do we open?" She's like, "We are open." And so this is a huge, huge business that had its heyday back in the 40s and 50s, but they're just not hip, man. And this store is gargantuan.
Yeah, it's like
it's the size of a mall.
London.
Just the one store.
I mean, what's the stores in London that are like this? That are just, I can't afford even a pair of socks in some of the stores in London that are like this. You walk in and you think, who shops in here? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
absolutely massive.
I'll be honest with you. I've never been in a store that was this size. I mean, we had, your J.C. Penney's and stuff like that. That's in your shopping malls, which would have the 2-floor type level, stores, but not to this size.
Yeah, it's pretty massive. Yeah. You get, it's good. It's a really good set to play with for the director. Like later on, when you get like Roxy and Armand later on, and you get that whole like Celebrity Squares thing where you've got all the different boxes. It's just a great set. But it's mad. No wonder they're going out of business. You could put about 100 families in there living in there.
Oh, so coming out of this, Claire leads Jonathan up to meet Richards, which is, James Spader, man. I mean, if anybody was made to play the heel or the bad guy in any movie, it's James Spader.
He is, the way that my dad describes him in this is slimy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he's actually
slimy. He is slimy.
Yeah. He's actually working with Illustra to try to shut down this business and take over the business because they're competitors. And he's, in charge of a lot in this store for Claire, but he's trying to help this transition along because I guess grass is greener on the other side, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. And he's clever enough to sort of know that the grass is greener and that he can, be as devious as he can. But also, there gets to a point where he's becomes that bungling 80s guy that just can't quite finish the job, the plan.
Yeah.
That's because he's hindered by Felix, of course.
Felix, man. So, coming out of this, they offer Jonathan a job, and he's wanting to do something creative. He's walking in. Yeah, well, I'm good with this. I'm good with this. I've got just the job for you. Stock boy.
Yeah. Ladies' underwear in a big cart.
Yeah.
Walking it around.
Which is where you start, right? I mean, in any business, you're not going to be the head window dresser. You've got to work your way up, right?
It's true.
Then he makes a phone call during the middle of a shift to Roxy saying, hey, I got this new job. And this phone call is not really that important. What is important is after she hangs up the phone, Amar, her work partner.
Oh God, he is the sleaziest man. I mean, he is pretty much a rapist, like without being that. You know, he won't let up, will he? He won't stop. He won't stop touching and prodding and poking and making comments. It's just horrible.
I'll take the rapist for 200. That's therapist. Yeah, man, he's even like, he cannot be satisfying you sexually, and he'll thrust his hips at her. I mean,
and she's totally like this actress. Can we talk about Roxy for a minute? Carol Davis. She's actually a phenomenal comedy actor. The way there's a couple of times where you almost see her laughing, like later on when she knocks Armand down the escalator. But there's a few, like when she hits him for real. Do you notice? She's like really slapping him in the face because she's not looking. He's behind her and she's like slap. And he's obviously like playing around saying the most extreme things he can, but she's just such a strong-willed character that she's just like, no.
And after he knows he crosses the line, then he starts doing the, forgive me, I'm a foreigner and my tongue slips. You know, he starts playing that card.
She's not my language. I like it later when he sees her and he's like, you're coming to work. Can I ride you?
Oh.
And that's his little thing. He pretends English isn't my strongest language. Yeah, whatever.
And coming out of that, you got Jonathan sneaking around, even though he's trying to partially do his job, but he's looking for his mannequin. And when he finds her, he meets Hollywood.
Oh my God! Well, this character is phenomenal.
Yes.
And also, on a serious note, this character is really, really forward-thinking for a 1987 movie about a man who falls in love with a mannequin. Because you've got a black gay guy, like openly gay with a boyfriend. He talks about him, and it's just like a really refreshing. But he doesn't play to. Okay, there are stereotypes he plays to, but also he like is completely a strong character, his own character. He's awesome, and he's one of the most memorable parts of the film where the end credits roll.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
And that's something I always talk about is I don't know, just as a society, have we just gotten weaker because these characters have been out there for so long? I mean, I remember, growing up watching, Paul Lynde and all these people openly gay, but it didn't matter, right? And now we almost act like it's such a staple of who we are. Well, I mean, I'm glad that it's a part of it, but just like this character right here, I don't know anybody that doesn't like Hollywood. I mean,
oh my God, he's amazing.
It doesn't matter that he's gay because it's just who he is. And like you said, I mean, well, they've made a part 2 to this, and it's mainly because they wanted more Hollywood. I mean,
who doesn't want more Hollywood? Hollywood Montrose. It just, what does he say? It just rolls up the tongue. He's so good, and he's always talking about this boyfriend Albert that we never meet. Albert says my hips are big, and Albert says this, and it doesn't matter because he's just Hollywood, and his sunglasses, and his outfits, and his little mannerisms, and the way he does some of those clicks,
the snaps, man. Yeah, I always think of
snaps, badass.
In Living Color, right? They had the men on film.
Oh yeah,
hated it. They do the snaps. I'm like, man, that's Hollywood. They took it from Hollywood.
There's one snap he does where he reminds me of Aunt Viv in The Fresh Prince. For that scene where she does the dance in the dance school, and then at the end she goes up to the young girls and she like does this ferocious click in their face, and I'm like, she's got the Hollywood click going on there. That click is just the end. Like that means it's over for you.
Yeah.
Boom.
In Hollywood, he's fantastic, and he is the store's window decorator. That's his job. And Jonathan wants to help, right, and be involved because he's found his mannequin. And this is where you get, like you said, the Albert speech of he's upset because Albert says his thighs are big and all this kind of stuff. And
He says, I've tried diets, and diets don't work. Because
it's the jelly donuts.
It's the jelly donuts. They call to me in the middle of the night. Hollywood. Come and get me, Hollywood.
It's fantastic. And
it's so good.
So he ends up, Jonathan says, hey, you know what? This display looks great. Go ahead, go see Albert. I'll take care of things here. So Hollywood leaves, and then we get where Jonathan is trying to set up more of the display, and he looks at the mannequin and says something, and then all of a sudden she comes alive.
Yeah, he says something, and she says, why would you say that?
Right.
And there she is.
There she is.
Control.
Yeah. And from here on, we're getting just a lot of scenes of I don't believe what's happening here. And she's like, "Well, you created me, and I liked your hands. They felt good when you were putting me together." And he's just like, "What?
Oh boy,
that's hot."
She's like, "Oh no, that's hot.
That's hot."
She says, "You must be good with your hands. You really know how to put something together." And he's just sort of. Every 10-year-old boy, I mean, I was 10 or 11 when I watched this, my collar was, I didn't know why my collar had steam coming out of it because I was too young to know why, but I was sort of like, oh, what does it mean?
Yeah, I always think of like The Mask, right? The Jim Carrey, when he sees Cameron Diaz and the smoke and oh, and the whole thing, right?
Bang, 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 bang on the head.
But we get some scenes where they're working on this window dressing that they're doing, and they're in a carpentry shop, and they're turning on saws, and she's going around messing with things, picks up a nail gun, shoots a few nails at him.
She does a Roger Murtaugh, fires a few nails at him.
Yeah. And
he, in this scene here, actually, he really reminds me of, and I came full circle on this, and bear with me here, he really reminds me of, and I don't know if you're a big fan of the new Spider-Man, Tom Holland, but he really reminds me of Tom Holland in these scenes. And now Tom Holland always reminds me of sort of Michael J. Fox.
Sure.
When he first came out. So now I'm going back and I'm looking at this thinking, Andrew McCarthy, Michael J. Fox. I could kind of see Michael J. Fox in this role. He's got that kind of young... that energy, that nervous sort of, because he speaks, there's a few scenes where he speaks a bit like Bobcat Goldthwait almost as well, where he's so nervous. He's like, oh my God, I must be out of my mind here. You're like, I don't know, man. It's just that young energy he brings. He's definitely, I'm surprised this guy, he's done a few movies, obviously we know, but should have done more, I think, really.
Right, yeah. You know what we forgot to bring up before this? The security officer.
G.W. Bailey.
G.W. Bailey, which is Felix Maxwell and his dog Rambo.
I call him Rambo because he likes to draw first blood.
Get it?
I love that.
Oh.
Rambo looks like the softest dog in the world as well. He looks like he wouldn't do anything to anybody. He's such a lovely looking dog, especially later on when he's in the tow truck thing that he's dragging him around in. He's not going to do anything, is he?
Well, even
you might want to get your dog out of the tree.
It's fantastic, but of course he's one of these. Watching every move you make. I mean, come on. He's the same character he is in Police Academy. It's the bumbling cop, right? And he's great in this. But Jonathan runs into him early on. I'm here to help Hollywood. Oh, you're one of those, huh? So where do you people come from? Ohio.
Ohio. They have them there. And he said, well, it could be worse. They could be working with a bigoted jerk. And I thought, that's good. It's good that they brought it back around like that. Because some movies back then would have just left the bigotry.
Right.
But actually, it kind of nails in with that one, really. It's quite good.
Yeah. So, during the frolicking around in the mall, we get where Emmy just says, hey, I'm going to take my clothes off right here in front of you, Jonathan.
Wow. My wife was watching the majority of this film with me. She watched like the first hour of it with me, and she'd never seen it before. And she said, "So, Kim Cattrall?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "You like her, don't you?" And I said, "She's all right." Yeah. And we got to that scene where she sort of just says, "Jonathan," and just opens up her coat, and I just saw her glance over the cushion at me, like. Shake her head. And I was like, whoa!
I didn't say a thing. It's the movie. It's the movie.
It's not me. It's her. But yeah, again, as a 12-year-old boy, 11-year-old boy, you would have seen that and thought, well, that's pretty cool. That's hot.
That's hot.
That's hot.
But next morning, Jonathan wakes up and he's asleep in the display window. And he hasn't really looked at what's happened. It's just like he doesn't believe it. He looks up and sees the mannequin there, and he's like, okay, all that must have just been a dream. I don't know. Things are really weird. But I don't know. He's pretty convinced that it really happened, though, because he goes to find Roxy, and she's upset because they were supposed to meet last night. And he's trying to tell Roxy about, I was working at the store, and this mannequin came alive, and it's the girl, and he's just blabbering on like an idiot. Roxy don't want to hear it, so she gets in the car with Amar instead of getting on the bike with Jonathan.
Yeah, she's about to get on the bike, but then, and Amar's going, there's only one thing that could help you at this time, which is to come home and have completely unbridled, passionate sex with me. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. And then Jonathan pulls up. She's like, take me back to your apartment right now.
Yeah, before I change my mind.
He's like, oh my God, I am like the wind.
But according to the way this thing works out, you get some scenes here where Richard is talking to B.J. Wirt, who's the owner of Alestra. And so this is where that connection is of where they're trying to tear down the other business and take it over. But business starts booming, man, because everybody's coming by and checking out these windows, and people start coming in and buying stuff.
And this is such an 80s thing, both probably in real life, but also in 80s as well, because people, like in movies in the 80s, I'm thinking about something like Teen Wolf. He becomes amazing as a werewolf basketballer, and therefore becomes really famous and really successful. This guy becomes really famous and successful, and so does the department store because of his window dressings. It's just that weird 80s thing. And it probably happened in real life and sometimes as well. I can imagine a store having... Sure. I can actually imagine, especially like somewhere in New York, I can imagine there was a store that every week they had a new window and people would flock to see it, take pictures like they do here. There's a woman sketching it every time they show her she's sketching the new... it's kind of believable, but not. It's that nice thin line between the two.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's I always. I was going to say this towards the end of the show, but I always talk about the ultimate essential '80s movie, right? And normally that path leads to Ferris Bueller. I always use that as a launching point. If somebody asks me what is an '80s movie, Ferris Bueller, and then on the other end of that spectrum is usually RoboCop. I think those two movies really represent what the 80s were. But you know what? This movie right here may be the most 80s movie ever made.
It's right bang in the middle of those two. It's success, it's commercialism, it's money, it's not having money. It's just...
The freaking clothes, man. I mean, not just the people in the stores that are shopping. I'm just like, look at that woman's jacket. I mean, it's insane.
And again, because you've got Kim Cattrall, essentially, she is literally playing a mannequin. They can dress her up in all of these clothes. Like she's wearing some horrific cycling lycra outfits at one point. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, Ricky. She looks fantastic in them. It's hot.
She's hot.
But also she wears some terrible, and also Amand. At one point, Amand is wearing this like leather jacket that's like feathered, cut off leather jacket thing, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody wear anything like that.
You can't even really describe it. It's like a poncho, but it's leather.
It's like a leather jacket that's been massacred to turn into a bit of a poncho, but it's not quite made it.
It's almost like you could pull a cord and it would expand into a ball or something. I mean, but it folds back down to these little flaps.
If he was like a special agent in an 80s show or something, he'd jump off a cliff, press a button, and they turn into like hang glider wings, and then fold back in. That's the best way to describe it. A folded in hang glider.
I'm glad you're getting to the hang glider because we're definitely getting to that, right?
There is a hang glider. And that's, again, how much more 80s could a movie be when you have someone hang gliding in a department
store? Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
She always wanted to fly, right? Hey, let's talk about this. I mean, of course, the business is booming. They give Jonathan a better job. He keeps moving up the ladder really quick. And then the next night when he's setting up the second window, let's talk about this dance montage, man.
This is the best bit of the film.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's incredible. They're dancing around. Well, I mean, they go to kiss. She seems shy, which is odd because she just flashed him her goods the night before.
Right.
Moving forward, she falls onto some switches. All the music comes on, and she says this cheesiest line ever. She looks at the speakers and she says, "Where do they hide all the musicians?" And then we get this amazing montage where they're just dancing around. They're dressed up as Al Capone. They're dressed up as Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
They're basically let's be honest, they're role playing. There's a bit of there is like a sexual undertone there. You know, you wouldn't see it maybe as a kid, but as an adult, you kind of see they're totally role playing. They're doing all these different role plays. Yeah. And it ends with them like sort of getting it on, you know, and it's just like a really fun 5-minute scene where there's a great music playing. They're dressed in, they both get to dress up in these different outfits. They're clearly having a lot of fun. You get that whole bit of the lift where he's got the guitar.
Yeah.
He does the skip out the dance.
The Chuck Berry,
the Chuck Berry as he follows her out the lift. It's so good. I mean, there's such a fun moment, really, isn't it?
She's got those fishnets on and the spiky hair wig. Yeah.
She flashes it, doesn't she? Under the
she does.
She's got the fur coat. He blows smoke in her face, and she sort of says, "Oh, whatever." And then she flashes him. Yeah. And he just chases after her.
Yeah, I don't remember anything past that point of the movie. Oh.
I think my wife threw a cushion at my head during that.
Oh. And it's such an innocent thing too, man. I mean, deep down you're feeling something. You're like, yeah. I mean, but it's not like, deep-seated stuff. It's just it's the movie is sweet at heart. It is sweet at heart. The film, honestly, it is. It's good though. Good times. Oh man. So let's talk about Roxy calls Jonathan back up. Hey, come meet me for lunch. And they're wanting to offer him a job to come work and do the windows at Lustra because their business is really falling off. I mean, it's like drastic. Within a week, it's like 48% of his business has dropped in a week.
It's like in the headlines as well. He's like, Lustra loses, 48% of profits. And then it's like, the woman from the Golden Girls profits is up by whatever percent. It's like, hang on a minute, what's going on? Just because of some mannequins in the window?
That's all you got to do, man. So he goes to meet Roxy, and this is a place that he worked at before, which they make this running joke about him almost burning the place to the ground last time he was working there.
The balcony, they rebuilt the balcony really well because that went up like a Roman candle last time I was there.
The souffle terrorist.
The guy's like, oh my, when he walks in, the head waiter's like, oh my God, it's you.
Yeah, I see you're wearing your night hair during the day now. That's good. Your eyebrows are growing back really good too.
It comes in handy as well because he leaves quick smart after turning Roxy down, bumps into somebody who's carrying like a flaming whatever it is.
Yeah.
Everything catches fire. He takes his wig off, tries to put it out with the wig.
I mean, it's so ridiculous, and you know it's coming, all right? You know what's going to happen, but you're along for the ride, man. It for some reason it's totally passable. Oh. So next night, setting up the new display. This is where Roxy and Amon sneak into the store.
Oh yeah,
to see how Jonathan's doing this and who he's working with.
But also, Felix is also been asked to.
Oh yeah.
He's been asked to go on a mission with Rambo to keep an eye, because they suspect something strange is happening, and he's like, of course, he takes it. This is a mission. He sort of salutes. This is my mission, and this is where it becomes a bit more. Is it Harris? He played in not Harris. Who did he play in Police Academy?
Crap.
Why can't I remember his name? You know who I mean.
Yeah.
The guy from Police Academy.
Move it.
Yeah. You got Proctor and that guy.
Crap.
It is Harris.
I think it's right.
I'm pretty sure it's Harris.
Proctor.
Let's go with Harris.
But yeah, I mean, he comes up and, you know, we've got the scene where they're building. It's
Harris.
It's okay. It's a display of, you know, being on a cruise ship, and Kim Cattrall's like, sure could use some suntan lotion if somebody rub it on. And of course it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. And they start rolling around, and that's when Felix is standing there over him, and he says, "What kind of sick man are you rolling around with a mannequin?"
He says, "You are sick puppy."
Sick puppy.
And he is, because, you know, if you walked into a guy rolling around covered in suntan lotion with a dummy, you'd think, okay, you're pretty lonely guy.
And while he's confronting him about this, off in the distance, you've got Amon and Roxy, who just came up a flight of steps, maybe an escalator. I think that's what it was. But he's got a camera, and he's taking shots of Jonathan laying on the floor with the mannequin on top of him. He's got like his hand on her butt. And
it's really bad. She says, in fact, Roxy says to him, maybe we shouldn't take pictures because this could literally ruin someone's life.
Yeah.
You know, maybe she still has feelings for him.
Sure.
But also, let's not forget that, like, moments before this, Armand said to her, the smell of fresh leather. I've always wanted to do it in a shoe
wow.
And she sort of hits him, and he's like, maybe I can offer you something in your size. And she slaps him, and he's like, it's a joke, come on. He's just a terrible pervert, isn't he? He's a terrible pervert.
Fantastic. But in such a weird setup right here, because Felix tells Jonathan to get up to fight him.
Oh, I know. He says, I've been told to look after you, but I think I'm going to deal with you in my own way.
Yeah.
And he says, get up. So he gets up and he sort of punches Jonathan, and they have a bit of a backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is actually them doing their own stunts, especially with Andrew McCarthy. They kind of throw themselves in. Yeah. And again, it's that kind of like, you're in a department store, what would you want to do? I'd want to smash that display up and smash that display up. So they get to do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then, of course, Kim Cattrall, as we've realised, can only really be seen when no one's looking other than Jonathan.
Right.
But because G.W. Bailey doesn't see her, she sneaks up behind him and she gives him a kick, knocks his baton out of his hand, means that Andrew McCarthy can knock him out. Boom.
Yeah, this one's for my mother.
Oh, this one's for Rambo. This one's for my mother. This one's for Rambo. I love that Rambo comes into this. I know that you talked about this in You Know What's Awesome, and Rambo does come up a lot in a lot of 80s movies.
Yeah, it was everywhere. Yeah, I mean, it's such an just an 80s icon. But this does break into where we have the hang gliding in the store.
Here we go.
Where
She's flying.
They're cruising around on these bicycles. This scene, man. Last night I was watching it with my wife, and I literally just yelled out, "Stupid!"
This is stupid.
Because she's riding on her bike, and Hollywood hears a noise, and he looks out in the hallway, and he doesn't see anything, and he turns his back, and then Andrew McCarthy comes by on a BMX bike. But when he goes by in the scene, obviously it's not him, and he's doing some sort of trick, or he's on the opposite side.
It's like a 14-year-old boy, all of a sudden, without his hands on the handlebars, and he's doing this incredible wheelie. It's like, woo! And Hollywood just goes, and then takes his sunglasses off, puts on a different pair of sunglasses, and he's like, that's better. It's very subtle but very funny. That moment. Man. I think the Hollywood guy. What's his real name actually? Misash Taylor. I mean, yes. I honestly I've never seen him in anything else. I think he's hilarious in this.
Yeah,
I've never seen him in anything else.
Perfect. Yeah, but this gets to where Jonathan is making such an impact that Claire makes him the vice president of the company.
This is ridiculous, Ricky. This is. I'm going to draw the line here, a ridiculous line, and they And Estelle Getty steps over that line slightly at this point and says, "We're going to make you vice president, Jonathan."
Never mind hang gliding mannequins in your store. Never mind having, intercourse with mannequins, any of that stuff.
And also there's clearly, as we find out, there's clearly CCTV cameras throughout this store.
Yeah.
Never mind any of that. You're now VP. Congratulations.
Who cares if you slipped in all the fur coats with a mannequin the night before?
Yeah, doesn't matter. You're the VP. Congrats.
I love that she fires Felix because he's passed out, where the hang glider hit him, and he's passed out, and now the shop people are coming in, customers are coming in, and they see him laying there, and it's a disgrace. But the next day, when Jonathan's laying in the fur coats by himself, passed out in the middle of the store naked. You're vice president. I mean,
yeah, naked.
Yeah.
All G.W. Bailey had to do was be naked, and he could have been much better within his career. But no, you got it wrong.
Yeah, it's just such a fine.
And the best thing, Rick, as well, is that not only does he get promoted, but before that, they all give him a massive round of applause.
Yeah.
Everybody, as he wakes up, imagine the jarring moment in your life when you wake up naked in a department store covered in fur coats to people that you've never met clapping at you, only to then be promoted to the second highest level in your organization.
Absolutely.
I'd have to pinch myself.
That's hot.
That's hot. Oh, man. Anyways, the reason he's by himself is because Kim Cattrall says, you know what? I got to go get in the window display for in the morning because people are going to start coming in. She goes back to get in the display. He's knocked out because, they just did the deed. So, you know how guys are. So,
3 seconds.
And at this point, this is where Felix and Richards are hired by BJ to break into the store and steal the mannequin. And even ask Felix, can you recognize the mannequin? Oh, yeah, I never forget a face or a name. What does he call him?
He brings him in the office like, Jesus. He says, I never forget a face or a name. And he calls him like Raymond or something completely
he totally
random.
misses his name.
He's got that stupid hat on as well.
Yeah. And we're kind of skipping a part here, but there's a big car chase scene or a motorcycle / car chase where
that's right.
Andrew or Jonathan decides to take Emmy out on the town one night. I mean, just load up the mannequin on the back of the bike, dressed up in your best attire. Let's go out and have a night on the town.
Well, it's not skipping that. I mean, that happens exactly after them. Exactly after he comes in to the, gets hired to identify the mannequin. We then see Jonathan decide to take Emmy out, and they go out. And she says, "But what if people see me? I won't look real to them." And he's like, "It doesn't matter to me." He's totally in love with her, and it kind of appeals to that. It's that kind of Beauty and the Beast, almost a Disney element to this film. If we're going to get mushy, there is a Disney vibe to this film where it doesn't matter what people think of the person you're with, because if you can see the beauty in them, if you can see it, then that's all that matters. And that's kind of where that's the romantic in me, Rick. As you know, I'm a bit of a romantic at heart, and that's kind of where this film is. So he takes her out on his motorcycle, but they get spotted. I mean, Roxy spots him initially, doesn't she?
Yeah. And that's where she decides to go back to Amon's place, and that's where he's in the bed, and he's like, "This never happens to me."
He can't perform. He's got his tiger rug, his tiger picture on the wall behind him.
It's a black velvet painting of a tiger with LED or fluorescent lights behind it.
This
shining
is
on
one of the
wall.
most 80s yuppies I've ever seen. It's ridiculous.
It's painful. It's like Harold
It's
Wallowitz'
never
room.
happened before. Maybe I can get myself a dummy. Can I get a mannequin? I want to get a mannequin.
I find a mannequin?
He's like, it must be you. I love the way he blames it. He's like, well, it must be you because you are so cold.
Yeah, it's not me. It's you.
Of course.
You got a great chase scene here that happens with Richards and Felix driving that car. And if you noticed, every car that is in the scene are old clunkers because they know they're going to ram them and hit them. And I really looked at that. And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, what an odd selection of vehicles here. And then I got to noticing all the ones that were just background in the scene were up-to-date cars, but every car that got hit or damaged or pushed were all like 60s and 70s cars.
They all look like they belonged to Sam Raimi at some point.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that instantly puts an image in your head, right? You're dead on with that.
And I love the bit where they lose the bike for a moment, and then they pull around the corner, and the bike stopped at the lights, and the mannequin's just
shooting
a bird. She's like, and he sees it, and he sort of bends the arm back down. And D.W. Bailey's like, do you want to put on any camo? And he's like, I'm not going to put boot polish on my face.
That's it. I'm not taking that from any person or a mannequin.
It's so good. It's so good.
But they chase him down the alley, and I love the car jumps to go through the alley, and it gets stuck in between two buildings, and they're just suspended in the air. I mean, it's so ridiculous, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it really reminds me, and I know we've talked off air. It reminds me of like a police academy movie, just something like that happening. Yeah. It's just so cool. I love it. This
is that fine line of doing the rom-com and taking elements of 80s schlock movies, Police Academy, and just ramming those together. And again, there was a ton that were coming out that were this kind of film. Outrageous Fortune, again, kind of rings the same bell, right? Because it's about chasing down a guy that they both had been with, and these movies are just running rampant, but this one's just got a different kind of sparkle to it. And there
was different levels and different tiers of movie in the 80s. You had like your rom-coms, your comedies, you had like you can almost see this was on the same ladder going up to something like Beverly Hills Cop, because it had all the car crashes and car chases in it, but it was slightly lower down the ladder, not in terms of quality, just in terms of family friendly. It was a little bit more, but also it was a little bit sweeter, had a little bit of a good heart to it. I feel like, although and I would even say that Beverly Hills Cop does have a good heart, but it's a little bit more sinister at times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But this is,
pure fun.
Yeah. 87, what have you got? Car chases, crashes, hang gliding in a shopping centre.
Right.
You've got it all. It's just ridiculous.
And your bad guys are laughable. I mean, you're not so despicable. They're not so despicable that you just absolutely hate the people. You still kind of like Richards because he's just the slime ball that he is. A good example, you could take this movie and Adventures in Babysitting and probably watch them in the same setting.
Yeah.
And be like,
and that's a really good one, actually. And you've just expanded. I was going to say my trilogy for this kind of type of movie is Big, Weird Science, and Mannequin. Those three for me are like the ultimate fantasy 80s silly. But I guess Adventures in Babysitting as well. There's a couple of you could really expand on it.
Weird Science is
this is Weird Science, like the building, of a woman. When he says, you're my when you said to me earlier, he says, you're my creation. I always think of my creation.
My creation, yeah.
Is it real?
Oingo boingo, man.
Oingo boingo, baby. Oh, God, don't even get me started. But like Big, Mannequin. Yes, all of these movies, it's just fantasy, isn't it? It's fantasy.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely fun.
Later on that night, we kind of get back to the movie, I guess.
I saw it. Yes, we need to.
But, this is where Richards and Felix break into the store to steal the mannequin. And being that they can't recognize the mannequin, they just steal all the mannequins.
He says, Felix says, well, I've never noticed how much they all look alike, actually. Oh, man. And he's like, well, just take them all. Get the dummy, get them all. And they just take every single dummy in the store.
Oh, man. And,
meanwhile.
That's when Jonathan wakes up the next morning. Yeah. And Hollywood's like, hey, you missed all the excitement. All the mannequins are gone. So
only the female mannequins.
Right.
Including your special girl. And he's like, what? And he runs.
Hand me my clothes. Yeah, so Hollywood.
And
Go
the
ahead.
Hollywood Mobile.
Yo, man. Yeah.
Now, if I was going to say to somebody, what kind of car would Hollywood have? They'd say probably a pink Cadillac. And I'd say, you're absolutely correct.
Yep.
And I'd say, what would the license plate say? And they'd probably say, bad girl.
Bad girl.
And I'd say, absolutely correct. And then I'd say, you know that scene in Batman where Michael Keaton says shields? And the car gets covered in a shield plating. Yeah. If Hollywood was going to do that, what would they do? They'd say, I'd probably say he'd put a polka dot rain cover over his pink Cadillac. Exactly right again. Correct.
With his name on the side, Hollywood.
His name. And he does a little click again.
Yep.
Because it looks great. It looks great.
I mean, while Jonathan is running into this store, trying to find the people that took his mannequins, Hollywood's outside protecting his car, because that's more important.
Rick, it rains in Philadelphia sometimes.
I guess
You know what
it does. Yep.
Come on.
But Jonathan runs in there, and this is where, all right, what did you do with her? Oh, we're glad you're here. We thought it would be cool to have the old team back together. So they're still trying to hire him, blackmail him, because now they got these pictures. Jonathan's like, I don't care. I've come to get my mannequin. Where is she? And that's where Roxy gets upset and takes off. So even though, let's face it, Roxy is jealous of a mannequin.
She is?
Yeah. Even though she doesn't understand that there's this other part of the relationship, just the fact that he is more enticed by a mannequin than her. Yeah, that's a threat.
Yeah, she heads down to the basement where they happen to have a special mannequin shredding machine. Luckily, it's like something out of Child's Play 2. And
right.
and she heads down there and she just starts throwing all the mannequins onto this conveyor belt.
You got a conveyor belt going up, and it drops them down into this, basically a grinder. And
yeah, it's like, you know, when you see those movies on YouTube where people throw like bowling balls and melons into that whole like big giant shredding. It's like that.
Yeah,
these mannequins are.
So she's in the process of destroying all the mannequins, and then we get the big cop chase scene throughout the mall where they're all chasing Jonathan.
This is like Police Story with Jackie Chan now, because for the next 5 minutes you've got Switcher just fighting his way through every security guard. He pulls hats over them, handcuffs one of their legs to he literally might as well turn into Jackie Chan for 5 minutes. It's pretty amazing, actually. But then these are the worst security guards I've ever seen, because later on, as we'll bring up, Hollywood defeats them all with only a hose pipe.
Well, it is a fire hose, which has extreme high pressure.
I can imagine it being painful, actually.
Yeah, oh yeah. And he does the whole bowling pin thing too, right? There's like 10 cops, and he just slides on the ground. Maybe that's why those bowling shoes came in handy. Hey, who knows?
Hey, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. If he only had that jacket that Amon had on earlier, and he could have puffed it up into a big ball and just ran into him like that, and they could have made a pin sound from a bowling alley, it'd been perfect. Right?
Imagine if they'd put that sound over that sound effect, because I love it when they throw that sound effect into films. You know, when they do that strike sound effect.
Right.
I love it.
But needless to say, he gets away from the cops, and because, I mean, they're all kind of beating him up. They caught him in this little alleyway out back. Well, it's not an alleyway. It's just the back part of the store that leads to where the grinder is. And there's like 20 cops piled up on top of him, and somehow he sneaks out of the bottom of the pile.
Oh, it's like the Tasmanian Devil whirlwind, where 3 people are fighting in a big whirlwind, and then one person will crawl out and leave the other 2 fighting. And that's what he's done there. Yeah. He's seen Warner Brothers cartoons. He knows.
Yeah. And while the cops realize he's not in there and they start coming after him, that's when Hollywood hits him with the hose.
He said, "This is what it's like to be a man, honey."
And he's snapping the whole time.
Yours, sweetheart. And he starts spraying them down.
Oh, man. And of course, they're, falling down and, because the water pressure is so strong.
And they're like, but this must have been a fun scene, because they're like, the actors are literally slipping over and falling over. And, it is genuinely, they're just literally getting knocked off their feet by the water. It's hilarious.
Yeah. And this is an old time gag, right? I mean, this goes all the way back to your Keystone Cop stuff. I mean, the only thing they could have done better is they could have just started throwing pies, would be the next thing. So, but, But he makes it into the grinding room, and the guy that's running that room just comes out with his pants down, and he's pulling them back. Hey, you can't be in here,
Ricky. There's only two things he was doing.
Right.
One of those was taking a dump.
Right.
The other one was not taking a dump.
Right.
That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
The guy works with a room full of naked mannequins. You pick.
Oh, but Jonathan runs up the grinder and grabs Emmy right before she's going off the edge. She does go off the edge, and he grabs her by the arm. Mm-hmm. And this is something my wife said too. He's struggling pulling her up. I don't know if it's because he's on the conveyor belt and it's still turning and he can't get his footing. But then all of a sudden she turns real and grabs onto him. And my wife's like, Jonathan's probably going, you weighed a whole lot less when you were just a mannequin.
When you were hollow and you weighed a few pounds. Now
Can you
you're
change
Kim
back
Cattrall.
real quick? Because this isn't helping.
I mean, Kim Cattrall's not a big girl, but she still weighs a lot more than a hollow mannequin. Do you know what I mean? Quickly, change back. I'll get you up the conveyor belt. Then you can change back to real. That's fine.
Right.
That's all I need.
And lo and behold, by the time he finally pulls her up, then the guy that's managing the building back there turns the machine off. I'm like, why didn't we think of that first?
Yeah, because the whole time he's like, you shouldn't be up there. Hello, it's dangerous up there. And like he lets him like struggle for ages and ages. It finally pulls the girl out, and then he's like,
Right.
turned off.
And in pure 80s form, because he knows that she was a mannequin when she went in. I'm talking about the guy that worked back there. Sees him pull out a real girl. Well,
What does he want?
yeah, he starts digging for mannequins, right? And starts
He's like,
trying to kiss
here's
them.
a leg, here's an arm. Oh, hang on, I'll get a kiss this. Oh, it's nothing.
It's not going to work.
And what does he find now, Rick? What does he find?
He finds Roxy because she got a big pile of garbage dumped on her while she's standing there watching the conveyor run. He finds her, thinks she's a mannequin. He goes to kiss her, and she's like,
He says, yes, thank God. And he starts kissing her. She wakes up to this like dweeb with a runny nose kissing her. Like, get off me. And he's like, oh no. And he carries on kissing her for ages.
right.
This disgusting guy.
And this is the most 80s ending you can have, man.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
so now all the cops show up. You got the owner of Illustra showing up. You get Claire showing up. You get Hollywood showing up.
Mama put the coins in my eyes because I sure don't believe what I am seeing.
She's the dummy.
He's the dummy.
He says that about 5 times.
He's the dummy.
And it's the quick wrap up, right? Because they're going, okay, we've already hit our hour and 40 minutes, so we need a quick wrap up here.
Come on, guys.
I want these guys arrested for stealing the mannequins, and you're going to jail for trying to ruin my business, and I've got everything on videotape because when I fired these guys I didn't have security, so I put in security cameras and they caught everything. They caught them sneaking back into my store, breaking and entering. You're wrapping it all up right here in this bowl.
Andrew McCarthy's like, whoa, you got video
cameras?
footage? And she's like, don't worry, I only watched what I needed to watch. Well, I don't know what Estelle Getty needed to watch, Ricky. I mean, I'm hoping it was wholesome, but
well, it could. Again, it's that story of I've made this guy vice president, but he's having his way with mannequins on my fur coats in the middle of my store.
the guy's good at his job. Let him have his vice. He does what he does.
Well, she even says that at one point, right? I don't care if he puts a rubber glove on his head and runs around naked, saying he is the.
Does say that.
What does he say? She says something to some crazy extent of, I don't care what he does.
We're probably wearing lace underwear right now, and Armand sort of turns his head like,
I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, so that's it, man. That is Mannequin.
well, yeah, because they all get arrested and get their comeuppance. Hollywood does a massive finger snap in their faces.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, of course he does. And we then cut to
The marriage.
they get married
Yeah.
in a Windows store. And
Yeah.
it looks like they're dummies. It's very good, actually. It looks like they're dummies. And it's very sweet and overly sweet but lovely, and I love that. And then it cuts into Starship playing,
singing. Yep.
And then we get a freeze frame, and 80s movies that end in freeze frame are always going to be a winner in my heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, again, just the fast paced, everything wraps up within a minute, right?
Yeah.
People get arrested. People find out that she's real. She's now real to everybody, so everybody can see her now.
Nobody cares about that.
And you get married, and you have a song, and you freeze frame all within a minute.
Somebody says, in fact, they question it twice because she says, oh, don't forget kidnapping, and somebody says, kidnapping who? She says, me. She's the dummy.
She's the dummy.
and then Roxy even says to her, where the hell did you come from? Don't worry about it. I'm a dummy that's come to life. Don't worry about it. It's the end of the movie now.
Don't worry
we haven't got time.
You wouldn't understand.
What's going on with Starship as well? Because then I get confused from the name of that band.
Well, it's it has to.
I need to be the guy to ask this. As
well, you've got owners of the name for one thing, so it's always that band member thing, right? So, you got Jefferson Airplane, which was their 60s psychedelic. That's what they started with. So that's where White Rabbit came from, Somebody to Love, you know. Don't you want somebody to love? And all that stuff.
Cable Guy, I've seen that.
Yep. And, I mean, super psychedelic. They were as psychedelic as you can get. Then the band kind of split, and you had some different rocker guys get into the scene in the 70s, and they changed it to Jefferson Starship. Because, hey, we're like, you know, you've got some semblance of the old band in here, but we are a different machine, and we're taking it to another level, right? Jefferson Starship. Then, they were Jefferson Starship for a long time, probably longer than any other name. And I really don't know the explanation of why they just went to Starship, because they just became more poppy.
Yeah, they did. They became really 80s synthy poppy, like rock pop.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, because I don't remember, I'm a bit younger than you, but I don't remember Jefferson Airplane, but I certainly remember Jefferson Starship. And then I remember Starship. And I remember conversations in the playground where people would say they're the same band. And I'd say, well, no, they've got different names. Right. One of the words is the same. But as I'm older, obviously, with Google, I realize.
It's all personnel changes, right? So think about this. The Star Wars Holiday Special, right? That's Jefferson Starship on there. That's playing the song.
It really is.
Yeah. That's not the same band. That's this, version that's Starship. There's different people in it. I think it all came down to Grace Slick was the embodiment of Jefferson Airplane. She's the female singer that was, and she left in the 70s for a while, which it became Jefferson Starship, and it became a dude band, right? Mm-hmm. Somehow Grace Slick came back to the band, but they already had this guy named Mickey Thomas in the band. Mickey Thomas is a great singer. He's the male voice you hear all the time. Yeah. He was in Narvel Phelps' band. So you know the song, I fooled around and fell in love.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That's Mickey Thomas singing that when he was really young.
Wow.
And he became the singer in Jefferson Starship. Then they brought Grace Slick back into the band, so now they're a duo singing pair, right? And I think that's where it became the whole Starship thing. Now, I'm paraphrasing a lot of this. I'm sure there's more meat and potatoes to it, but they are really separate bands. Jefferson Starship was more of a rock
it's three
band.
Separate bands, isn't it, in total?
Yeah. And Starship is more your poppy 80s band, yep.
And this song, and bringing it back to this film, this song was a phenomenal hit for them, really.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
As was...
we built this city.
I mean, that's that. And I actually realised I made a mistake. We were talking a few days ago, and I said to you, when I was a kid, I sang a song to my class. It was actually We Built This City on Rock and Roll. That was a song I sang... when I was about 9 years old. For some reason, I decided to stand up in front of my class and sing that because I don't know the words anymore, but I certainly knew the words back then for some reason. My teacher was like, what are you singing? And I said, I'm singing this. She said, do you want to sing it in front of the class? And I said, well, actually, yes, I do. And I did. And my class was like, yay. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was singing. Why? I probably didn't know all the words. I was a child. But yeah, this band, this end credits, this whole film.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I got to tell you my Built the City story as well, because my daughter, of course, she can't help it. She grew up under my influence, so she likes everything I like.
God love her.
School bus picks her up out here. This is, many years ago now, but the bus driver was an old burnout guy, right? So this is during the 2000s, right? And she said every morning she'd get on the bus, and he had put his own speaker system in the bus. And he had a cassette that he played over and over. And she said the first thing you'd hear when you get on the bus was, "We built this city." She's like, every day you were going to hear that song at least 3 times. I mean, but it's just amazing. I bet that, now she probably absolutely hates that song. She said that every time she'd be on the bus trying to go back asleep, and I said, "We built this city." She's like, "Oh, no."
Listen to the radio. Don't you remember?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, after rewatching this, this could be the definitive 80s movie. It checks all the boxes of what an 80s movie should be. Soundtrack, animated credits, goofy storyline,
and usually there's a supernatural element which people seem to ignore.
You're right.
Whether that's this or House or
Teen Wolf,
Weird Science, just Teen Wolf. Yeah, there's a supernatural element which people just seem to ignore and just carry on with their everyday.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, this guy's playing basketball and he's a werewolf. Look at him, please. This guy just turned into a man. It's Tom Hanks. He was a child the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'd make it totally acceptable. You're like, yeah, it's it's the norm.
Bigfoot and Hendersons. That's another one for me.
Oh.
Another one.
Harry and the Hendersons, yeah.
Or Harry and the Hendersons, yeah. It's, we've got a new pet. It's a fucking Bigfoot. Brilliant. Nice one. Yeah, his name's Harry. He lives in a basement. Good right.
one. Yeah, I mean, that's what made it so fun, man. And
real fun.
I don't know what happened. It just seems like we end up taking everything so serious, and we have to have explanation.
Backstory.
Man, it's what kills me about the Star Wars stuff, man. When Lucas felt it was important to go back and give us the backstory.
Oh, don't care about any of that.
No,
you know what I mean?
I don't need an explanation of the Force. It is what it is.
That's why I loved about, and I recently reviewed Batman, the 1989 Batman with RJ on his show, because you give there's a little snippet of the backstory, but we all know what happened with Bruce Wayne. We only need to see a 2-second clip of what happened. We just want to see Batman kicking some butt. Right. That's all we want to do. That's all we want to see.
Yeah, we don't need a Michael Myers backstory, right?
Oh, I mean, Rob Zombie, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so I hate when we feel like we have to have an explanation, because it kills the magic of what makes these characters what they are. Oh, by the way, I did send RJ a message saying, "Hey guys," or "Hey man, a 2 hour and 16-minute episode about Batman is not bite size."
Yeah, sometimes when I appear on his show as a guest, it becomes more of a lunchtime size. Let's say. I'm a talker.
This has been an absolute blast. I'm glad we finally got to do this. This is fun.
Me too. I've had an absolute blast. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I was glad to get to meet the guys briefly.
Yeah. We had to shut them out, man. It got too crazy.
I understand why you do that with guests. I do. But no, listen, I hope I can come back at some point to talk about something else crazy, because this was so much fun, and I had a lot of fun talking to you about this. And I'm going to just think of Hollywood now whenever I think of you. I'm going to think of finger clicks. There's that one he does. He just goes, mm-hmm. So good. So good.
It's great, man. Hey, take this second right here. I mean, because I've got a lot of people that would want to know where else you're jamming at. So go ahead and give us the spiel on Podcast on Haunted Hill and what you got going on.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so the Podcast on Haunted Hill, I do that with Gav Chucky Steele. We've been going for about 7 years, and we're on episode 102 is coming out probably within the next week, that's going to be our Child's Play episode, looking at Child's Play 1 and 2, because that's a franchise I don't want to just smash through within one episode. I want to come back and do a few on that one, because I think that's a good fun episode, good fun franchise to do. So yeah, that's what we've got coming up. And I also appear quite regularly on the Bite Size Cinema podcast with RJ McCready, as we just talked about. Yeah. I've got a few shows lined up with that guy. I'm going to be doing Planes, Trains and Automobiles. And also, as we get towards Christmas, I'll be doing a little bit of Home Alone action as well. So I've got a few shows coming up, and I'm hoping if Ricky will have me to come back on here at some point to talk more absolute 80s nonsense.
Oh yeah, it's a done deal. There's no question about that.
The handshake. It's a golden handshake.
Yeah, hey, and I have to say too, I was telling my wife earlier, because you helped me out on my crazy idea for a couple of the House of Wax episodes.
That's right, man. I did some voice recordings, didn't I?
And I wanted to say, you know what? You may have tapped into a little bit of your own Hollywood when you were creating that character.
I mean, put the coins on my eyes.
I mean, I think about some of the lines and stuff that I gave you to do, and you kind of turned it into we'll just put some tissue on there.
I did, didn't I? I did.
So, you know, again,
I'll take that. That is a huge compliment. Thank you.
Hollywood is one of those iconic characters that when you grew up with them, it never gets old, right? And that's what makes these movies stick around. I mean, Kim Cattrall, yeah, she is Kim Cattrall. Andrew McCarthy is, like you said, almost kind of switchable. You can almost trade out a couple of other characters, but you can't do that with Hollywood.
Absolutely not. And it's strange that he didn't go on to do much else, really. But it's definitely a character that is memorable. And if you know your 80s movies, or, you know, the odd 80s movie, this guy is going to stick out for you. You know, he's incredible. He's brilliant. And way ahead of his time.
Man.
Compared to, as we talked about earlier on, you know, with the whole talk around politics, etc. these days, and representation, this guy, you know, we got a black gay character just coming out, and there's not even an eyelid has been batted. This guy's just a main character in this crazy journey of a film, and I love that about this film. Adds a whole extra element to this film for me.
Sure.
Love it.
Yeah. Man, this has been a blast.
You know it. It's been hot.
It's been hot. All right, folks. Hey, I can't say it enough. If you love your movies extra 80s with extra 80s cheese on top, this is your select pick, man. You got to check this one out. No doubt about it. Dad, we're going to cut out, man.
All right, dude. Thank you so much.
We will see y'all later. Adios.